We're screaming now, but we don't have sound. And you're muted, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's usually like a spoon here.
There's like a upscale,
Yeah, like
a double-sized fork.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just do the 2-fork thing.
This is barbecue. Yeah.
What's that?
That's veggie.
These are good, yeah. I mean, it's always been kind of short since they switched from Big Apple to DeFazio's. It's different.
Michelle gives versus for the idea stuff versus Jackie for
Oh.
the
This got started before.
Are they different? I guess so.
Well, yeah, Michelle has fine-tuned it a little bit.
I see. Does Michelle eat the pizza?
No, she doesn't, but
Okay.
she solicits my feedback a little more closely. So I think she has them sliced them into like twice as many slices. I think that's one thing she
Oh,
does.
interesting, but sometimes these come sliced thinner than this.
It might be, so Carrie had been giving,
Ah,
she'd been doing the orders. And Jackie did this order, so Carrie might have,
okay, maybe Carrie, because yeah, the last
she might have
time-
fine-tuned it slightly.
Yeah, but she like just
So-
gave birth, right?
Push it on. Hopefully.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully that doesn't affect. I can't remember, is this the last normal TWed term? Actually, morning. Let's see. Let's see what our. Unless we fit one in after Thanksgiving. We got 2 weeks off after this.
2 weeks off after this?
Yeah, well, I've got Optum Labs research and translation forum next week, and then we've got Thanksgiving break. And we've got it off. Maybe it comes back.
Wait, Thanksgiving break is in 2 weeks, right?
It is, according to my schedule. It's, so next week is, so this is the 9th, then it's the 16th, then it's the 23rd,
Oh my god,
then it's the 30th,
oh my god, I get it.
and then it's the 7th, which is the beginning of, or like the last week before finals. Is it not working?
Oh, well, so we don't have one on the 30th?
We could slip one in if we wanted to. The 30th, yeah, we don't have one yet for the 30th, so if we wanted to slip one in, we could.
Yeah, it seems like we should.
You know, Ray knows how to do this. Do you know Mackie things?
Maggie thinks he knows that. Maggie.
Okay.
But you do.
He knows that.
That's when he started college.
We need to make the thing go to the thing. Maybe it's this.
Is it the wrong source?
Well, it should be. It looks like it's auto-seeking. Right?
It does auto seek most of the time. And it just says source not found.
Should I just unplug it?
That
It's usually pretty magic about that.
yeah. Well, I'll try that.
Try it.
But I can bring like the other
We need to
adapters.
get,
Sometimes adapters. But
While we're
There's
trying to
another
figure
one.
that out, Lindsay, do we need pens? Do people need pens?
Yeah.
Oh, trying to figure out how to make the
Jen
projector.
heard Mackie things.
It's Mac projector issues.
Yeah,
It should just work, right?
Some of those adapters don't
Oh,
work.
you solved it, Jim.
Whatever you did. Yeah.
Just needed the
Magic
fingers of
touch.
authority. All right, perfect. And let's see. Oh, yeah, you need to also be sharing these. You stop your sharing.
I stopped my sharing. Maybe that was a problem.
No, because you were doing that before.
Screen share, entire screen
That's the
share.
easiest. The phone. Beautiful. It's perfect. So let's get started. All right. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to TWed. Tonight we're welcoming our Science and Technology Studies PhD candidate, Linsday Poirer, who's going to give us an interesting take on the history of the Semantic Web and ultra influences in web architecture. The logistical analysis, we are being live streamed tonight. Keep that in mind. You're welcome to make comments, questions. We keep it being streamed, recorded. We've got 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks off from TWed. So next week, the Thanksgiving break is the following week. We might schedule it on the 30th. There's a pressing topic that needs to be discussed. And the following first Wednesday in December is our fall 2016 TWed lightning talk. So if you haven't signed up yet, please sign up. I'm going to start spamming everybody incessantly starting this week. So without further ado, take it away, Linsday.
Okay, so I handed out little sheets of paper to everyone, and just to get started, I just want you to write down on the sheet of paper if you had to define web in 1 to 3 words. Write that down on the paper.
You have pens? Most of us came down without.
Okay. I have. Anybody else need a pen? Okay. I have lots. Three words max, basically. The web. Define. And then you can pass them on. I'll hold on to them. Okay. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. But first, I just want to talk a little bit through an activity, right? So I brought this cookbook, my favorite cookbook, Beautiful Contestant Paris. And what I want to talk about is how we can study things that's out in the world from lots of different perspectives. Okay, so I wanted to ask everybody in the room to talk a little bit about how you would define, study this cookbook as a computer scientist, as an economist, as a network scientist, as a media studies scholar, as well as a geologist or anthropologist. So we'll start off with, I think most people in the room might identify as a computer scientist in one way or another. So I'm going to scoot over here so I don't get my mic. How might you study this book if you were a computer scientist? Yeah.
A set of algorithms.
A set of okay. Other things that you could do.
Well, we might ingest it, do a better index, do a better table of contents, do an API to it.
Mm-hmm. Any other ideas? You might study how efficiently it's organized.
What its source content was, how it was revised.
Okay, what about as an economist?
How much does it cost? How much did it make?
So it's a cook, right? So the what are the personal economic impacts of various restaurants?
And how about as a network scientist? Yeah, it's a New York Times bestseller. The way that it kind of stuff. And how about a media studies scholar? This one's a little funny. I'm not sure if you what media studies is.
Basically, how the mom people, how much affected people,
Also, a lot of people like in communication media, this department, so different genres and forms of communicating, right? So how does the form of the cookbook shape the way that information is disseminated to the general population? I'll skip philosophy. What about a sociologist?
I was going to say, in general, does it reflect a particular slice of society?
It's barefoot. Is it actually reflective per region, et cetera. And how about as an anthropologist?
What are the different types of people involved in these recipes?
How did it fall? How did the restaurants fall?
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times the way the web science community gets characterized is we bring a lot of these perspectives to a thing, right? To an object. So you can call it an object, maybe you won't call it an object, maybe we'll call it something else. And it's really interesting when we're actually bringing all of these perspectives together, as you can see by this middle space, it kind of requires that a lot of disciplines redefine what it is that they're actually bringing to the study of the web, right? Because now all of a sudden you have to figure out ways for scientists and social scientists to work together, for network scientists and media study scholars to work together, and all of that, for economists and philosophers to work together in order to understand the object, right? And so in the process, we're kind of constantly reevaluating the ways in which we actually do the study of the web. But what makes this kind of tricky is that it's really hard to define what is the web, right? We might call this a cookbook, but does the cookbook actually include all the people who read it? Does it include how much money it makes? Right? So when we're referring to the cookbook itself, it could end up being many different things to many people, right? So when we're talking about the web, are we talking about the web as a thing? Are we talking about a process, infrastructure, a network? Is it software? Is it hardware? Is it both? Is it a protocol? Can we point to the web without also referring to the people who use the web? Is it a reference? Is it just like a sign that's out there that points to something else? Right? And these things are really tricky. So I'll note, we'll just read how different people in the room defined. Okay, so the web as a linked universe, the web as connected information, the web as massive information connected, an interconnected world highway, right? So what's interesting about these is when we have massive information connected, we'll get to that. So you hear it as both an infrastructure, as the data that's out there, as a web of right here, URI, HTML, so the web as protocols themselves, or sea of information. And what's interesting most about this is that right now we're people that all study the web together. So even amongst all the people in this room, there's probably very common understandings of what it is, right? Go into my academic communities when I'm presenting about the web, and I'm often told that I'm an internet studies scholar, and that's kind of where I fit in. Right. And it's really interesting because within the academic communities that I work with, internet studies scholars bring very particular types of research to the type of research that they do, which I'm trying to actually work around to bring insights. And it's because of the structure of the web as something that's different than the structure of the internet that distinction is important for me. But the reason I wanted to point this out is that I wanted to point out that the web can mean lots of different things to communities. So this particular community, the web and the internet, refers to the same thing and should be studied the same way. But what about the semantic web, right? This is a picture of an altered version of the semantic web stack. And it kind of points to some of the tricky parts about defining what the semantic web is itself. If you have just linked data and you're only using some of the linked data technologies, if you're only using schema.org, are you still referring to the semantic web? If you were to pull out any elements of the stack, are you still referring to the semantic web? And that becomes really tricky in defining what exactly the semantic web is, right? It was from a blog post. I can't remember the name of the blogger, but it was drawn up based on Jim's talk where you had the picture of the cake in the stack. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Actually,
what was that? Yes, the one all in red. Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely, because I just recently discovered this one, included in my WS 12, got it way much later, so on. Get to it next week.
Okay. So in my interviews, when I've asked semantic web folks, what is the ultimate goal of semantic web, I get drastically different answers. And some people tell me it's about global data integration. Sometimes people tell me it's about organizing all of the data into something that's coherent, right? So what the semantic web is to different people has been really interesting. Contested. Okay. So scholarship in the field that I work in, science and technology studies, and particularly this scholarship supporting technology studies, has shown that the making and the shaping of certain technologies is really somehow defined by different social groups and the different social groups that bring their ideas to the making of those technologies, right? And defining it and structuring its architecture and shaping the way it's envisioned with the world, the way that people relate to it, and then also how people actually end up uptaking it, right? This is a lot of the scholarship I work closely with, pointing out like as well in the reactor. Talked about the way that Moses bridges in the Robert Moses bridges in New York City were actually built so low that public transportation couldn't pass underneath them in order to keep Black communities out of the Long Island beaches, right? So actually, the way that this particular social group brought their ideas to the technology shaped its architecture. Gender in the making refers to all the different social groups that have been involved in the development of the microwave and how it kind of distinguished lots of different gender dynamics. The closed world is all about the development of computing and the internet and the Cold War era, and how the Cold War discourse really shaped the design of both the of U.S. computing and the internet, and then probably the most famous in this area is the social construction of technological systems, which talks about the way that the design of the bike over time was shaped by lots of different social groups that were bringing their ideas to it. But what's really kind of funny about the study of the web is that the web is in one sense a technology, but it's also been designed by researchers, right? There's also work. Well, the previous slide showed work in technology studies. This work shows more recent work in science studies where anthropologists or ethnographers have actually gone into labs and they've studied the way that different scientists and researchers work in order to understand how science and knowledge is being produced. So I actually work more in this vein, but in order to study a technology. So it's kind of a weird mix of both science and technology studies in this sense. And I'll note that So this first book is kind of considered the origins of doing this thing by Bruno Latour, actually going into labs and studying the way that scientists work and whatnot. He basically introduced that method in that book in the late 80s. And then Beat Times and Lifetimes, I was the first anthropologist. She actually went to CERN and was the way that physicists understood data and the way that knowledge is produced at this huge computing station CERN. And then this last one, Diana Forsyth, was studying artificial intelligence researchers. And we can talk more about this later, but I've actually really tried to push against some of the ways that Diana Forsyth has characterized artificial intelligence researchers as constantly trying to employ I am the world thinking, right? So she basically says that people who are doing knowledge representation are always trying to cast themselves as the knowers of knowledge and pushing that out into the world. And I think the ways that I've talked to people in this web had long histories in AI, they've articulated other ways actually about doing that. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So I found that in order to do this, in order to study the web as a science study scholar and as a technology study scholar, trying to understand how the web on the web based on how the researchers who have worked on it have brought different ideas about the web to its architecture and to its structure. I've really gone back and studied history of the web because so many of the decisions that are being made now are being made based on architectural decisions that were made a long time ago. By a long time ago, I mean in the early 90s and whatnot. But also influenced by the structure of the internet. But history itself can be a funny thing. Consider the history of the internet. When I Google search who invented the internet, is what comes up. You've got Vince Cerf, you've got Bob Kahn, DARPA, Leonard Kleinrock, Al Gore, Tim suggestion that female coders have been written out of history in the invention of right? So part of the challenge of actually going back and rewriting this history of the Semantic Web has been that everybody kind of has a different idea of how the web started, how the internet started. And so piecing together what the history actually is really about trying. I'm always doing it in a way that's right, based on certain perspectives and certain ideas of how that actually happened. Okay. So I come from a tradition of anthropology that has come to see history itself, like technologies, as shaped by the way it's structured. And this tradition probably started back in the late 70s when Hayden White wrote this book, Meta History. So meta history was really ethical for anthropology, for history, and for the way that we talk about for the way that anthropologists studies.
I messed you up. I'm sorry. What do I do? How do I go back? That's where you want it. Okay. So basically, what Hayden White says in this book is that history itself and our understanding of history is really shaped by the way that historians write history. Okay. So they might employ different types of narratives to their history. They might employ different arguments, different ideologies, different structures, and all of these things that they do in actually writing history, just like craft a literature in a certain way. You can craft a history in a certain way, and it really shapes our understanding of history. And so, he breaks it down into these kind of categories where, like looking back on unpacking these really old historical works about how they employed the employment of romance, or the employment of tragedy, or satire, and how these different arguments kind of formed to shape how we understand history. And what's funny is that I think you see all of these in the way that we talk about the history of technologies, right? So romance, kind of the hero's triumph over evil, is really characterizes a lot of the stories we hear about the development of technologies that kind of have a strong leader at the helm. Right, so in Apple, we understand the history of Apple through Steve Jobs, right? More so than we understand the history of Apple through other things that we'll talk about as we move through the categories, or through Sergey Brin, etc. And though this is changing, and I'll get to that in a little bit, for a long time we understood that
history of the web through Tim Berners-Lee, right? And the way, like what he triumphed over evil. And the argument is really reformist, so it focuses on the individuals that have contributed to the development of technology rather than all the other things that are going on around it. Right.
Tragedy. I have this image of Gopher. So in this case, you know, learn history by talking about, or structure history by talking about the way that a certain hero learns limits through some sort of failing. Right. And so the argument here is mechanist, right? Rather than focusing on individual units and how they kind of overcame. In this case, they're focusing more on like the laws of the universe and how that shapes why this didn't. So when we go back and try and understand why Gopher failed, we're trying to just blame it on a law. Rather than on individuals. Comedy. I think a lot of the literature on social machines within web science falls within the comedy section. Comedy is not so much in terms of like romantic comedy, something like that. But Hayden White talks about comedy as a harmony between natural and social, or something that emerges that's like a celebration of people's shared values or whatnot. And so in this case, the argument is built organically, right? So in this case, the whole is more than the parts, etc. So the way that we tell the history of things like Wikipedia or reCAPTCHA or all of the universe or all these other technologies that have emerged, not because of a single user, so we don't talk about so much about the inventors of Wikipedia or the inventors of the universe as making them so successful, but the ways in which society has come together and like socially harmonized technology in order to make this a really successful system. And then finally satire, which is really kind of like an existentialist category. People are kind of just like captives of a world that's always pushing against them. Right. So when we talk about the things that have gone wrong, just because of the way that society is structured, like TWed or like Yik Yak, etc. The events are described constantly like in context with this world that we can't control. Things which are just out of our control. And so that kind of follows this satirical narrative structure. So I want to go back to talking about the history of the web as being kind of a romance. So one of the things is that Xanadu and Ted Nelson make kind of the perfect villain to juxtapose with Tim Berners-Lee as kind of like a triumph, right? And what's interesting is that a lot of times the way that the success of the web has been characterized to me is that it was Tim Berners-Lee's brilliance in allowing for 404 that made the web so successful, right? So you know the idea that you can have like broken things and that the web didn't have to be this like perfect structure and whatnot, that actually break down. This was Tim Berners-Lee's idea that kind of triumphed over and made him successful over this other system, Xanadu, which ultimately failed, etc. But also, Berners-Lee often gets characterized kind of as martyr, you know. So he gave the web to us because he could have become so rich, but instead he gave it to the whole world. The web is under threat, and it's time to reclaim it. Building up this movement around building the web that we want. So it's really the history of the web in this sense has turned into a sort of triumph over evil history. But I think what's interesting about web science is it's actually pushing up against that history a little bit in I think ways that are really admirable, saying that if we're going to understand how the web has formed and how the web has become a thing, we can't just look at traditionally, we can't just look at the technology, we can't just look at the design decisions and all this stuff that went into it, but we also need to look at the way that people are using it and abusing it and all of these different things. So one thing that I want to do before we move on is to go back to these little categories and talk about if anybody has anything that they might add to these sort of narrative structures, right? So stories of digital technologies that kind of like their histories have been told through romance here, or through a hero's triumph over evil.
Well, I think one example is, so you sort of great man theory. This kind of analogy that, and you see it with radio, computing damage, light, or telephone. Bring drugs in the
Right.
Each one of those is much more complex story. But we hear about drugs and programs.
Right.
Right.
Anybody else?
Anybody else have other examples?
I'll move on.
I'll move on to tragedy.
So there's
Gopher.
and there's a
And
lot of
the
the
other web
browsers
browsers
that kind of
get told as
as tragedies.
tragedies.
Bing is like a Microsoft search.
Oh, Bing.
Bing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah. Well, that's sort of so there's Gopher, Waze, Yahoo. Each one of those is seen as a failure. How could they not have seen it?
Right.
Incredible elegance of Google.
And what's
funny is that
in looking back
on those failures,
and I think it
actually,
one of the things that Hayden White emphasizes is that these are not perfect. Like, it's not always
that you're having a mechanistic argument with tragedy and whatnot.
right? Or that sometimes the categories will be really blurry and both tragic and whatnot. But
what's funny about a lot of these
browsers
is
it
it does
fall
into
this
this
kind of tragedy plus mechanist,
where like they're not talking about how individual people failed, right? But like they're really emphasizing how like the way that the economy works,
or the way that such and such works,
or something like that, where it's about the law that kind of is behind it and trying to interrogate like what went wrong rather than who went wrong.
Would you characterize MySpace to Friendster to Facebook in the same way, right? Or was that more social? You know where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Well, MySpace being sort of artificially imposed constraints on usage. Friendster being out of that.
Right.
And Facebook being intentionally, even though it was controlled release, was open.
Right. And it's funny because I've heard a lot of the academic arguments about why MySpace failed, and one of the most prominent ones is from Wed that basically says that MySpace was kind of like there was kind of like a from MySpace to Google a white flight, much like white flight happened in urban cities in the 1960s, etc. Right, where MySpace was this like
graffiti-like area where people could just put things wherever they wanted, and there was a certain social group that was there.
And then you had all these white educated college students that were like, I'm going to go to this other space, which is really clean, and it doesn't have all this graffiti on it. And so basically Dana, in looking at that, was characterizing kind of the social shift from MySpace to Facebook as a white flight, as literally following the same, like the movement of the white communities out of urban cities.
Viruses. So I love my computers. My stepkids actually MySpace, and I have like 100 viruses.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like
the movement out of
that area, and
it's funny though because figuring out where that fits into all of this. I mean, that's not the popular history that gets told of the failure of MySpace. It's just a history that gets told. But this is also part of why Hayden White's structure is so important is that it shows that there's lots of different ways that we can tell the history of why something was successful or why it failed.
So regarding Gopher, they're part of their sort of tragic, there's a story going on there. So is that what you were drilling into? Is that as well?
Right. And so again, it's like how laws of cause and effect, So in telling kind of the tragic story of Gopher, we talk about the way that intellectual property was a cause and effect sort of thing that caused it to die versus,
Some of us know that.
It is a tragic story. I feel tragic when I hear about it, just being at an institution. You know, they had really tried to do something really great at their institution, and then it just fell apart. Okay, anybody have any other examples of comedy when like there's harmony between the natural and the social, celebration of shared values? I mentioned before that I think that a lot of the sort of things that we talk about social machines end up falling within this category.
So could you explain, I'm not sure I totally understand.
The harmony.
Well, how do you use the word comedy?
So one thing to note is that when Hayden White's looking at these histories, he's looking at like pre-17th century histories, right? So the understanding of what comedy meant was not so much like funny comedy, as much as it was kind of like a celebration of life, like happiness, something that's kind of like it's about celebration rather than about telling a story of tragedy or a story of triumph or something like that, but more a story of celebration. Right.
So the explosion of law.
Yeah, probably all of the folks on these stuff. Yeah. What? Reddit. Yeah.
It seems like Facebook would fit in here, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and the story that gets told about it, like all of a sudden that you have certain subgroups that can now share all their pictures and whatnot. You know, so yeah, I think probably makes a lot of sense. Okay, and we'll go to the last one. And I almost put Reddit under Reddit too, because people in my community often talk about Reddit as now a space where people can be misogynistic or can share really problematic values without having to worry about kind of the backlash, and because of the structure of Reddit, it enables that sort of thing. But again, that's in the community that I work with. So different people tell different histories of it.
So is this where you've been Twittering?
It could.
I think Twitter can go in all four of them.
Which is
So I'm not familiar with
chat roulette.
Chat roulette.
Okay, so basically what happened was there was it's the software where you go online and you randomly you put on your webcam, randomly get paired with somebody else across the world, and you can chat. Yes. And so things went really badly. Yeah.
I have heard of that. And it doesn't have a capital R.
I put in it as two separate words when I was looking at the photo, and that's like the worst logo ever. Yik Yak is still being used on campus, and it's become a super big problem. A lot of courses in the STS department talk about lots of controversial things like race and gender and whatnot. But basically, it's a anonymous space where you post things that only people that are within a certain geographic range can see. Yeah. So if you were to log into Yik Yak right now, you would see what everybody else on campus is posting. So we've had courses in the STS department where all of a sudden students who are using Yik Yak will use it as a space, as an anonymous to develop an argument around race and gender in class as a space where they can voice their opinions without having to deal with any backlash of it.
So I guess I have.
Okay. So moving on to the Semantic Web. So I've been working on characterizing the history of the Semantic Web for about 2 years. And I've done a lot of interviews with Jim, Deb, Eric. I've also interviewed John. Yeah. Orlisilla, Christian Beiser, Ian Horrocks, Wendy Hall, Nigel Contractor, Turpinus, and Pat Hayes. And I think that there's a structure to the stories that gets told about the history of the Semantic Web
that defies a lot of these categories. And one of the big structures of the history that gets shared with me is that there's a lot of infighting within the history of the semantic web around how to actually structure the semantic web itself. And I want to note that so I'm going to go through kind of 4 phases of the semantic, and I'm actually in this talk, I'm not going to go so much through them, but this is the way that I usually characterize it within these 4 phases. 1991 was when Tim Berners-Lee published the World Wide Web to the Alt-Hypertext News Group. 2001 when the first publication on Semantic Web came out. 2006 when Semantic Web Revisited happened, and then 2011 when Schema happened. And now I want to note also that this is a history of the semantic web that I'm telling that would be different than many of the ways that the history of semantic web is told. People that have gone to present have made that very clear to me. That's not how I understand the history. And I was like, well, I'm always constructing just from what I hear and from quotes that I gather and whatnot. But the other thing I want to note is that there is so much work that was happening on the semantic web and the web and whatnot before any of these dates, right? You know, the proposal for the World Wide Web was 1989. You know, and he had been working on Inquire from Within since 1981. You know, by the first publication of Semantic Web, you know, Ramanathan Guha had been working on the meta content framework since 1995. RDF had been going on, the working group for RDF through the W3C had been going on since 1998. You know, Jim had been working on SHU, they'd been working on the ontology, the ontology interface layer, EU, the DAML, and all of this stuff, you know, pre-publication of the semantic web. But that's when I go into conferences and whatnot, that's not what people are referencing when they're talking about this. They talk about this publication as kind of the start of the semantic web. And that's why it's listed here. I would love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was something I wanted to reference in here, but I haven't. I think 1985 was Brockman's.
Yes.
Well, we didn't call it discussional logic, we called it terminological logic. So you did KO1 in 79.
Oh, okay.
That one second.
Yeah.
That was all
Right.
You go back to lots of ways, it's a way to on top of this, Greek philosopher, hypothesize the organization or
And what is most interesting to me in all of these conversations is how the genealogies of thinking about the organization of the world have been shaped historically, right? So with each era, we're getting different ways of understanding how the world is organized, and that shapes how our data is modeled, the data structure is designed, right? And so that's really what I'm trying to characterize here as we talk about this, and keep that in mind as I go through.
So if you go back to the previous one.
Oh, I didn't mention what this is.
Okay, so this is from a presentation that Tim Berners-Lee gave in 2007, I think, and he produced this kind of map of the web. And one of the things I was thinking about when I was trying to figure out the genre for the history of the semantic web was that in some ways like a Western tale, right? Where you're going in and conquering new lands, and there's always battles and whatnot, and also there's people out in the wild trying to tame with their ontologies and all of this stuff. So
he's a math. So started constructing the there are so many jokes in this thing.
Really? Oh man,
There were the Microsoft logo uses the iOS forum.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah. So I forget what
So I had
this is the more south Weds maybe something, Poirer something.
Oh,
Very tough.
Yeah.
You want something else.
Okay. Yeah, that would be awesome.
As you were describing, sort of what's been left out, as Jim was, as Deb was, what I was thinking of was some of those history of rock and roll charts that start. But if there was a version of this history that encompassed the interconnections in that way, I'm not saying I'm not negating your story at all.
Right.
But if you go to advanced years, I'm imagining as they're discussing all these prehistories going back to the Greeks. I think I've seen one. The teacher said interesting. But the point is there's a lot of contributing to it. I was kind of visualizing that sort of background, that noise.
Right.
Or not noise, but the subtle complexity of it. Kind of this kind of brings to the fore.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm wondering why is it 91 because he published it? Why would not March 1999?
Yeah, and this one was kind of tricky because I think that most people in the community that tell this history would label it 1999, but then there's many people outside of the community that have put it at 1991, and so that should probably be both up there because this history gets told both ways.
And then I sat there. You got a reputation.
I
20.
Right. But that's what I think is so funny about this
history right here. I mean,
we're at
25 years from 1991.
We're at 15 years from
2000.
We're at 10 years
from 2006.
And we're at 5 years
from 2011.
And so it is
kind of like rotation of revisiting.
And the reason I'll talk a little bit why I put some up there like another stage in all of this.
Really so. Is it July? Schema.org.
It was June.
Well, so the reason I was discussing this, and I described how I think between Jim telling me about it, but the announcement of Schema.org, and I watched this massive missing content.
I found it.
You did find it. Was it as exciting as I described?
Yeah, it was great.
It was great.
But it's an invasion of territory kind of a thing. Why wasn't I included? All sorts of things.
Right. But what's really interesting, and I'm going to get to this, is that there's a lot of people who came out with blog posts around that time, around June 2011, like, this is the worst thing that's happened with web, right? And then I've actually got a few that actually went back 2 years later and said, I've changed my position. This is actually great. I was wrong.
So back in the 92, three times this was access. All the people were
Well, and I was wondering when that web workshop was in Dodge, so the semantics for the web was in 2000. And then the first semantic web working workshop was in 2001. Yeah. I call her. And I think of those somehow.
Right. I'll have to add those.
This made me.
Yeah,
another tragedy of the CompuServe tragedy.
Okay. All right. So
another thing that gets characterized through this history are these divisions within the semantic web. I've talked about a lot of the infighting. So one of the ways that the divisions get characterized is history and artificial intelligence of neat versus scruffy, right? Roger Schiff came out with this distinction in the early 70s. and basically said that there's two types of artificial intelligence researchers. And I'll unpack this a little bit when I get to that point.
There's those that believe that we should cobble together
from things that already exist in the world, and it can be kind of messy, and it doesn't matter as long as it works.
And those that believe everything should be logically consistent and really organized,
and we've got to get our mathematical models right and all of this stuff.
Right. There's also this distinction between the linked data folks and the big O ontology folks, right? So that gets described to me in the history when I talk about semantic web.
Peter Norvig, in his keynote in 2016, made this distinction between highly trained magicians, which he described as failing on the semantic web, and lightly trained webmasters, which was what made semantic web succeed,
right? And so you see a lot of these
binaries in the ways that people talk about the history of the semantic web, when basically saying like
there are people on this side, and then there are people on this side, and you're kind of like trying to meet each other somewhere in the middle. Right. And I also want to characterize that this matters to how the semantic web actually evolved, right? So in the first version of OWL, the actual architecture, because of these divisions, ended up being stratified, right? Where you have, I think that based on those that I've talked to, these divisions played out most notably in the development of the first version of OWL, when you had different people from different communities coming together in order to build the web ontology language. And right. And man, this is kind of the language that, and I've got awesome quotes who are basically people saying the same thing. It's like, and what's really interesting is that for a lot of people that I've talked to, it was the first time that they've had to work on a committee and develop the standard, the one standard, right? And so all of a sudden, like, you're tasked with working with people that have different ideas about what the ontology should be or what the technology should be, and then have to develop the one thing, right? And so because of that, we end up with a structure that is that marks those divisions, where actually OWL had 3 versions, kind of each adhering to the different communities and the different ideas that people brought to the community, right? Or OWL 1. So this is kind of the binary chart that I've created. We do this a lot within anthropology as we talk about the way that binaries work within communities. So the neat scruffy binary, as it's been characterized to me, and I know that this is really blurry, but this is the way that it often gets written as, is that, it's divided along people and kind of like the traditional person, right? McCarthy. What? McCarthy versus Minsky and Schenck. Geography is West Coast versus East Coast. Stanford versus MIT. The AIM and Yale. Okay.
So MIT at the time was actually mostly needs, but Minsky was SSNI.
Right.
One discussing
right.
basis
of at MIT, yeah.
Yale was really
right.
Well, K1 was Harvard.
K1
was Harvard. Oh.
Is that where Brockman
was?
Yeah, so he was under the Woods.
Okay. All right.
I should know this off the top of my head.
Right.
He was a TWed.
And again, one of the funny things is that this is just the way that it often gets characterized. I mean, I've looked up neat scruffy, like I've done web searches, I've done like readings of books that it's been referenced in, and the way that they describe neat scruffy often gets divided along. And one of the things that I want to do within my research is actually trouble some of these and talk about the ways that there's actually people working like in the in-between spaces. Harvard. Okay. So then AIM, usually gets distinguished as completeness and soundness versus just building that works, right? The aesthetic, clean versus messy, foundation, something founded in logic versus something founded in signs that are already out there. Signs are for kind of linguistics there, so basically just reference that already exist in the world, right? The process is like neat process around modeling and whatnot versus just kind of like cobbling things together, and what gets valued in the work, like formality versus pragmatism, right? Did you have a question about scruffy? Yeah, and so basically it was just these labels that Roger Schenck came up with to describe these two different traditions in artificial intelligence, particularly in knowledge representation. Right, so he basically said right now, and this was in the 70s, right? There's a war between the neats and the scruffies. Those that think that the world should be modeled based on mathematical logic, and those that believe that the world is too messy for that. Right. And it's funny because this kind of the needs and the scruffies has traversed throughout the history of AI. So Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig have published what is now like the most famous book and is used on the history of AI, and it's used in most like intro to AI classes. And in that they have a line that says, and this was 1995, where they said, right now we see a victory of the needs, those that believe that mathematical modeling is like trumping. Kind of like designing and cobbling stuff together. And then again in 2004, Pamela McCordick says that, you know, it's right now we're seeing a victory of the needs, you know, and whatnot. So so kind of the way it's been characterized up through like I would argue up through like the late 2000s has been that the needs are winning in knowledge representation, right? And one of the things is that I'm going to disturb these binaries, and I'll come back to this slide in a minute. Is that I really think that because of working with the web infrastructure, the web infrastructure itself has been really prominent in disturbing some of these binaries, because the web infrastructure is pretty scruffy. You know, you've got people from all over the world that you control how they add their data to the web, right? You can't control how they adhere to the definitions. They very strictly define and all of this stuff. And so things end up breaking. And you know, plus we have 404 built into the web itself. Is prone to breaking and kind of that's the design that gets valued the most within the web.
The very nature of the web. Anybody can say anything about anything.
Right. Yeah.
Authoritative or not.
So there are certain stories that come out that kind of, I think, to what I was describing as kind of the web itself and pushing up against that. So first of all, in the Semantic Web Revisited, they talk about the way that folksonomy and development of kind of like Web 2.0 things meant that more users out in the world were producing their own web data. It became much more easy to produce your own web data and to add semantics to it and whatnot. And so it became much more possible for things to break down, right? At the same time, Christian Beiser told me this story about how building DBpedia, one of his favorite stories about how kind of things went wrong. Is that within DBpedia, civic infrastructure is disjoint from populated place, right? And then they hit this one Wikipedia page that was describing this land in India where a bunch of people living in tunnels, right? And so that class disjointness, while it was very valuable most of the time for modeling their data, right? In this one case, right? So is this a failure that's happening, right? Or is it something? Is this a case where we should get rid of class disjointness in this particular instance or whatnot? And what does that mean for modeling that data when you have like one cases that happen 1% of the time? That kind of break down the way that things and then you have the paper when owl say the same. We look at the ways that people who were doing data were misusing owl saying based on it's kind of like and then this is from my interview with Pat Hayes, one of my favorite quotes from all the interviews. I think actually Marcus started off as a neat, and I've gotten scruffier as I get older, and then me. I tell him that he's not the first that tells me that, and he laughs and he says, "Yeah, well, your youthful idealism gets worn off by life when you get to my age." Okay.
So then here we come to schema.org, and schema.org is a very lightly defined, right? It's not very formal. It's been described as an ontology. They're trying to define the classifiers that most web developers will find useful. And again, as John pointed out, the time that it came out, a lot of people in the semantic web it's scary. We've done all of this work in building out these formal definitions, and now we've got Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and eventually Yandex coming in and saying like we're just gonna wipe the slate clean and start from scratch. And it wasn't really starting from scratch. I mean, Ramana had been involved in RDF. Had been involved in RDF. He had done this kind of classifying with psych in the earlier days, right? But they were really just building out the system based on just like picking out from those classifiers, and have since put a very if you want to add a classifier to schema.org, you have to defend it very vigorously, right? Right. So there's lots of policing around the boundaries of what should be included in order to keep it very simple, in order to keep it flat, and all of these things. This is one of my favorite quotes from the schema.org W3C group, and that said, this is Bernard Batant, who's responding to Peter Schneider, who had been very involved in OWL, and has been described in other communities as the archetypal neat. Okay, the aggressive. So that's other problems you point out, lack of documentation, semantic switches, etc., will always be present in this scruffy work in progress called web semantics, fuzzy, plural, inconsistent, etc. I'm sure you will ever fight it with all strength, given where you come from. I'm afraid this battle has been lost for quite a while. As Pat Hayes told me a while ago, my ivory tower is mysteriously shaking these days. Waters of the real world are rising around us. Time to learn swimming in troubled waters.
This email like this.
What was this? This was in response. I think it was Richard Batant. But Peter, I worked in years co-authors with him, and it is yet we have scruffy stuff waiting. Because we had to work in the real world, and swim in those dog waters. Right. He's actually co-authored the patent. Yeah, and then let's use the intellectual property in-house. But we and I are pulling that. That basically is roughly as hell. And this is exactly why when I was talking about that book that Diana Forsyth wrote about doing ethnography within this AI lab, where she basically said that AI researchers employ I am the world thinking and basically build all these formal models based on the way that they see the world. This is kind of the problem I have with that argument, is that I think that most people that have worked within knowledge representation have realized we've got to deal with the social aspects of it. We've got to deal with the cultural aspects of it, the real world aspects of it, and figure out how to be pragmatic in the situations that we're put within, while also kind of like pushing up against, to the extent possible, those limits. Right?
I've worked in knowledge representation for at least 3 decades, and there's no way anybody worked in knowledge representation for that long time. Basically, since that's a long line for the real world. Right. They don't talk about. Oh, yeah. Okay. I stood very.
So
it's got a very particular position.
What's interesting about this particular, this happens to be November 2013. This sort of doom and doom message happened on a daily basis. Certainly on public was from 2009 on for some issues until at least 2014 when I couldn't handle watching this fly and mine. But it's interesting that this is, and part of it, I would say, is a lot of people know each other. So they're able to have, there's this kind of dialogue. It's a very rich, very high fidelity discussion. It's one of the it's a dying breed of conversation that happens. It's like you have to get this right. I'm going to argue with you. I'm going to argue with you every single day. So we get this right.
Yeah. And people like Hayes and Johnson and Christmas, all that's part of their relationship.
But I would say it's an extension of the timber, where he gets characterized as wanting to save the web. I think there's a whole project, not projects, correct. There's this whole community out there have sort of that visceral feeling to this right. If we don't win this existential argument about URLs represent the web would die.
One way that you can make a difference. But you are going to just
so when you brought that up, do you find and is it purely you discussing the issues, clashes from all but did you find that common in the web space as sort of intellectual thinking came to a standard by our network? One thing.
Yeah, well, the original time I read articles and reference worked on RPS, not on Apple. And then the individual that talked about it followed up and basically said, and then it was 10 times worse than that. But yeah, it was, I mean, I think.
Well, and other than Riff was actually differently horrendous than Apple. So all of these had this decades of history for just language and formal foundation. So at least there was small foundations sitting around. I guess debatably, Riff had formal foundations like different places. And all 8 of them was in the beginning.
Right.
So at least
I'll have to look at that. I haven't looked at that just right now.
it's
We're giving you this right.
Yeah, that's okay. This is what I was hoping would happen. I was really hoping it would happen. So I'm just gonna go back real quick and just talk about kind of. So one of the things is that I want to do within my research is to characterize this third category. So we would call this the excluded middle, right? Which is funny because it's actually a play on sometimes when
you're doing things with formal logic,
right?
And
then
the real world
and
you realize that there's some excluded, right? So it's kind of a little bit meta, this project. So one of the things is that something new that's not neat and it's not scruffy is aiming for something that disturbs, right? So we're not there's nothing that's trying to get the ontologies right. It's not trying to get the ontologies to work, but trying to iterate from that. Right. So when Jim talks about pataphysics and kind of building a pataphysical search engine, right? That's something where you're trying to actually build creativity into a search engine, so it doesn't return to you the data that you actually wanted, but returns something that's kind of a one-off from that, right? It facilitates surprises, facilitates creativity. So neither doesn't fall into the neat scruffy divide.
but when you say
When did I say that? Just
this is excluding because when you first started, I was like, well, I'll leave this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I took from each side for the initial the choices. I got crucified for that.
So one of the things I think I should do here is I actually should flip this category, things that fall neat and scruffy, and then things that go beyond neat and scruffy, right? Because I think this pataphysics stuff goes beyond neat and scruffy, whereas this kind of is something that falls in the middle, right? Or the middle ontology falls in the middle. Lightly structured falls in the middle. Affect is something that we go beyond, right? Where the foundation is not based on logic or science, but based on emotion, right? So there's this one book called Affect in AI, where Elizabeth Wilson, who studied kind of the history of Alan Turing and the history of tests in AI and whatnot, makes the argument that when Deep Blue won the chess match against Garry Kasparov, it may have been, but it wasn't because Garry Kasparov was somehow like intelligently deficient, right? He was not so much that he wasn't able to beat the wits of the chess game, but that because he didn't have another king that was sitting right across from him, he was actually like emotionally not getting the same competitive feedback that he's used that makes him play chess brilliantly, right? So based in emotion or something like that, other than in logic, science, and that's included middle that often doesn't get talked about. Something, or I don't know, do we build, like, would it be different if we built emotions into our robots, you know? Yeah. But and maybe that, you know, so that's another area where this kind of exclusion is kind of pushing up against the boundaries. It's like, if we're building emotions, then maybe it's based on something other than science and logic.
Got an email on the inbox, chatbot, that's a good friend.
Or you see all of it, like the movie that was with a guy falling in love with this child. Her. Yeah. So it is kind of a funny thing. In one of the schema.org mailing lists, somebody uses the quote that I've used a lot in my writing about how we shouldn't revisit the RDF versus OWL wars in this falldown. The trick is to be consistent in the face of pragmatic realities, right? And so they're trying to come up with new tricks for actually working within a space that is at once pragmatic and consistent. And in some ways that's impossible, right? So we need to devise literally new ways of working to work within space. Right. What gets valued in the work experiment.
What is motivation for that?
The motivation for the quote,
yeah.
It was probably most likely in response to somebody saying, we need tourist attraction, and we need hairdresser, and all of these things.
So try to use what you already have in space.
Well, or same as would be a good example.
Yeah, so people got very pragmatic and used it in all sorts of ways that it wasn't.
Right.
And actually that paper that you got there was the combination of two previous papers put together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so, and I should ask you about that, because I've got one that was presented at ISWIC, right? And then I've got this one, and then I would be interested in knowing what the other one was. Is that one of the two?
So, yeah.
Okay.
My publications still have that. So I'm on good.
Yeah, okay, so that must be one of them.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what the other one is. Okay. All right, so that's what I have. What time are we at?
7.
7:09. Feels like it's 6:30.
If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. This was really fun. I appreciate your feedback.
This is really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, I actually just want to say one other thing. I really think that this sort of characterization of how the web was created and how the web was won and never won is really important for web science. And it's a conversation that's not being had with web science about how, so if we're going to study the web, we're going to study what the web has become, right? So we've got technologists that are studying its, protocols and whatnot and all of that stuff. And then we have social scientists who are typically studying the way that users behave and interact on the web. Right? There's not very much of a conversation about how the web itself has been shaped by cultural social groups and conflicts and all of that stuff. And this is what I really hope to bring to web science.
You definitely need to write papers for web science.
It's even more than that. I think that so website 2016 this year was fascinating, but it was almost a computational science conference. Okay. I knew there was a lot of fascinating stuff, but it was one wondered, could this have been some other conference? Okay. So there's a rooting in the web, which was sort of, that was my feeling looking at it from our perspective. Okay. And I think I'm coming from that same place. We had this conversation. And so I think this is something that we can bring to the fore. This is something that's, when you look at what is our contribution compared to some of these other contributions, the idea of the listening labs is that you have some sort of uniqueness that bring to the table. And historically, our system is foundation in engineering, technology, it's creating some core technologies which led to semantic web, web science, how web science is done, how it's bootstrapped, data analytics, etc. Very particular message. So we got to bring that out. I'll help you. Well, so yeah, and
So you can send me an area if you would like it into the website. Like almost immediately.
Okay.
Coming out with a new version.
All right, I'm in.
When you and I just make it tomorrow.
Mhm.
Okay. You know, sort of are revisiting when I am there
Mhm.
pretty likely. But then for part of the November 29th activity, one of these. In the early days of web science, we wrote something called web science. That's key issues. Doing final edits.
how have we done? How have we done?
Stunning. Given that it was written very quickly, informally in the first set, I think it was the curator advancements and I mean, it's a big issue that we start so there was others to do. As he said, we're going to about issues, the social impact more than anything else. So now that that's actually pretty serious.
So weird. There's some contract constructs that ought to exist to the history going forward. Was that an organic thing that just has to happen?
I mean, and it's funny because what's made the web successful is the organics of it, and so. I really like the governance of web. Like, I think it's a great governance. And I mean, yeah, there's times when people are infighting and whatnot, but I mean, we're all in a space where we can talk about it, and
internally or externally, or that it's different side.
Easy is to shut down the web. We saw those striking the service.
No, so that's I mean, the each of your during spring, we're find out a way. unless you shut it down. Can't shut down.
So that's a right.
That's why internet. So we had this conversation. I really don't want to do this. Except that we have to get a good first.
Right.
It's basically Bob versus Bob still says the only thing and still says the only thing Bob represents the same. And they were both working as hard but also Bob is a student usually
Bob is a very nice.
Harder. And again, how governance will control the names. So there's a lot of again, I really follow so I can't Precisely. And again, it can be very so it could be a simple in California or some civil they basically just
This is strike. Yeah, it was during like the part strike.
Yeah, it was some part. But again, it was there. You're just turning wires. Everyone had wireless. Yeah. There were so many rumors.
Yeah, something like that. So the recent distributed mouse, we were talking about this earlier. I was just against one DNS provider, but 500,000 devices. Yeah. But by bringing them online, it brought down. We didn't have Slack. That was why Slack sucked that. And there was a number of other places.
Slack, I was on Slack, but I was sitting here.
Yeah, maybe I'm not sure.
Because I was on Slack, I remember listening to
Yeah, it could.
Yeah, but he was.
It could have been some other reason that happened to be.
Yeah, no, you were. You were. I didn't know.
This must be why the polls were so long.
Yeah.
Despite our best efforts. So, does anybody else have any other questions? Let's thank them. Rare opportunity to get a lot deeper insight into the level of
Oh, thanks. I was really nervous about that because I'm not used to giving a talk like that.
I think the location for the thing